they truly believe Frank Reich is a special coach. He can reach people. That's what they believe. So when you think about, or when you ask the question, what's his ceiling, then you got to go back to what he did last time he was with Frank. He was having an MVP year. He would have won MVP if he didn't get hurt, Nick. So I think that is the ceiling. This dude truly is a guy who can play football. Something happened in Philly. A lot of people believe that they put the quarterback ahead of the team, and when you do that, you just get in trouble. So that won't happen in Indy. They truly believe they have everything they need from a management standpoint and also from a personnel standpoint to really bring this whole thing together. Super Bowl is the goal for this team. I mean, look at what they did last year. And again, I go back to what they believe. Frank Reich is special. They believe he can reach guys. They think that he did a phenomenal job with Phillip Rivers last year. Look at what he did last year, 24 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. The year before, he had 20 picks, 88 rating. So I think this is a good situation for both parties, Nick.
Listen, this was 3 months ago when the Carson Wentz 4 months ago at this point. Trade rumors first started percolating. This was the place that I said on the show, it's the only place it made sense for him to go. They were going to need a quarterback. They were going to have the cap space, and Frank Reich's there. So I think everyone knew eventually this was his likely landing spot. I disagree with you on the ceiling being his 2017 season where he was leading the MVP discussion through 13 weeks. I don't think that player exists anymore, and I don't know if he ever really existed. I think that was a bit of a mirage. I think if you look back on that season, the number of great plays that were made when he was under pressure, under duress, you look at his astronomical passer rating on 3rd and longs, those aren't sustainable. The question is, can he get back to who he was after that prior to this season? Because 2017, he was an A+. 2020, he was an F-. But 2018 and 19, he was good-ish. Can he be good-ish for a team that otherwise is really well put together? And I think the answer to that question is probably. So what's their ceiling about what it was last year? Last year they won 11 games. They were this close to beating the fighting Josh Allen's in the playoffs. If they had picked up that fumble, they would have beaten the fighting Josh Allen's in the playoffs. But to me, Brandon, it's not just about the player that he is. I'm going to put you in a bit of an uncomfortable spot. I want to ask you a question. If you are a receiver on the Colts, and Phillip Rivers seems to be a guy people really love playing with. They don't like playing against him, but his teammates seem to really like him. And he seems to be a guy that inspires some loyalty. If you're a receiver on the Colts, and you haven't met Carson, but you've read the things we've read, are you excited about this? Are you happy about this? Yeah. Do you want to play with this guy knowing just what we know on the outside looking in?
Look, that's the amazing thing about the locker room, Nick. And look, I'll be skeptical. But right now, he's off to a great start. He's calling his teammates. He's FaceTiming his teammates. He's doing everything he's supposed to do. So, yeah, I'll be skeptical. But at the end of the day, everybody wants another opportunity. Everybody wants a fresh start. Hell, I was a guy that got 2 or 3 fresh starts, and it worked out well. The first half of my career, it didn't go the way I wanted it to go. It was all bad. And then the second half of my career, it was amazing. I became a solution in the locker room, and I was a guy that people could depend on. So if it happened for me, then it can happen for Carson Wentz. Now, obviously, different distractions in different situations, but I truly believe this is a good situation for him. And then you said something interesting, Nick, and you was talking about team. Let's look at Philadelphia. How are they built? Defensively, they lost the #1 guy back there in Malcolm Jenkins. He was the glue not only to that defense, but that whole team. They had no depth at the linebacker position. They were depleted on the offensive line up front. They had really no true running game. They really wasn't committed there, had no identity, and they had no wide receivers. So now when you look at the Indy situation, you insert Carson Wentz, and you have a top-tier defense, a top-tier running back, top-tier running game, and then you have pass catchers. This is a good situation for him. And then also include protection. A top 7 offensive line, Jenna.
And Nick, let me just throw something else in there. The reports that we're hearing now is that he had really lost communication with Doug Peterson down the stretch, and there was no relationship with the head coach. So now he's got all those things on the team, and a guy who he really trusts as head coach, a guy who was basically was offensive coordinator the last time he was really truly successful. Now you restore that confidence, and you'd like to believe that he's going into an environment where as long as he gains the players' trust, the coach is going to sort of make it an easy transition for him with Frank Reich. Is that not also in play here?
Yeah, no, I think that's all part of it, which is why I think it can work. And to add to it, you go from the team with the most different offensive line combinations last season in recorded NFL history to a team that is very stable on the offensive line. Now, they might move Quentin Nelson to tackle. I don't know why you would do that. He's the best guard in football. But you're a guy who previously didn't know who was going to be protecting him to a guy who's going to be well protected. That works out for him. My skepticism is this. I just never hear any accountability from Carson Wentz over why it has gone so badly. And I haven't not heard enough from him or even off the record, not off the record, but anonymous accounts from teammates about how he's unfairly portrayed in the media, how he's actually this guy in a good way, as opposed to the guy who's been portrayed as kind of a selfish, maybe a guy that's unsure of his positioning the moment you draft a second-round project in Jalen Hurts. Like this, Carson Wentz has gotten exactly what he wanted. He goes to a better team with the coach he succeeded with better weapons, a better offensive line. If he doesn't succeed here, then I think you can wash your hands of him as a player. It could not be a better situation for Wentz. I don't know if we are just too tied to what he did in 2017. Because what we have since then is some sample of good play, some sample of horrific play, and no sample of great play. And so I think the Colts will be fine if he is just an above-average quarterback. But I don't think the 2017 Wentz is coming back at any point, Brandon.
I disagree with you, Nick. 2017 Wentz, I think he's still there. Look, you're sitting next to a guy virtually that was in the same situation. You know, a lot of people wrote me off. A lot of people thought that, oh, he's not great for the locker room. And then all of a sudden you get a fresh start. You have a different perspective. You look yourself in the mirror and you say, you know what? Maybe I can be better. Maybe I should be better. It probably is me. So because he's not publicly doing it, I'm sure he's looking at it internally and privately saying there's some things I can work on. Nick, I know it's a little early, right? It's, you know, we talk about these too early predictions, but I'm going with the Indianapolis Colts to come out the AFC. It's a little too early. You can't look at Jenna's face. Look at Jenna.
It's early in the morning and early in the season and early in the week and early in the year.
It's not even the season. We haven't even gotten into the new football league year yet.
Listen, if Wentz is 2017 Wentz with those weapons and that coaching, that's not a bad take, especially because AFC South might have the two worst teams in the league, in the Jags and the Texans, if the Texans trade away Deshaun Watson. So you just build in 4 wins to start your season, which is a great spot. I just want to push back a bit in this regard. I totally understand, Brandon, your story and guys that have turned corners in their career. I feel like it's a little different for quarterbacks because your entire football life, I don't think you were taught from age 13, you have to be the leader on the team. You've got to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. I think it's about go kick butt on the field. Go catch a bunch of balls, score a bunch of touchdowns, create a bunch of yards. That's your role. Quarterbacks are taught from the beginning. It is partly what you do on the field, partly what you do in the locker room. And if you're 28 years old and you still haven't gotten it, I think it's harder for that position, Jenna, to have a big change than a guy at almost